Hello and welcome to the SoundLab podcast interviews unedited. On today's show, we have interviews from Embrace, Faeda, Seraphina and The Musical Box, plus we throw back to 2024 to chat to the Kaiser Chiefs. So without further ado, let's start with our first interview of the show, and it comes from Embrace. They've got a new album out this week and we had a chat with them all about it. So Embrace, how are you?
I'm very good, Jim. How are you?
Good, yeah, not too bad. Thanks so much. So we've been playing a couple of singles of yours, most recently Stop. Tell us a bit about the single, first of all.
Stop. Let's have a think about this. So it started from like a really crummy little demo, I think, that I did on an OP1, which is like a tiny little keyboard that does everything. Like it's got 4-track on it and drum machines and synths and stuff. And that's kind of how I tend to present my ideas these days to Danny. So they're like just like throwaway little jams, and he kind of picks up on the ones that he gets a vibe for. And that was one of them. And he kind of usually sends me a text that says like, "I've got a bit of something to one of your ideas," and it's usually a big understatement because when he turns up, it's usually like a killer chorus or a killer verse or whatever. And it kind of came. It had sort of too many bits when it started, and we managed to sort of whittle it down to like the 4-minute structure that there it is at the moment. I think it was like 6 minutes originally. Yeah, so I mean, lyrically, I think it's Danny's kind of on this tip at the moment where he just talks about us being on a big, rock that's flying through space at 60,000 miles an hour, and we're all going to be a thin layer of calcium in like a million years. So nothing really matters, Stop panicking about everything, and smell the flowers, kind of thing.
No, that's fair enough. And that's coming off your new record, Avalanche, which is coming out 12th of June. What can we expect to hear on the record?
It's quite a varied album, I think. It's quite a lot of upbeat, high energy stuff on there, like Road to Nowhere and Stop. I would say is kind of upbeat. It's kind of jumping up and down kind of music. There's a few sort of introspective ballads, some great lyrics from Danny. There's a few little cheeky moments on there, which just for good measure. But I think I'm really proud of it. It kind of like just towards the end, I thought we were like 2 songs short. So we gave it one final push and actually got 3 of my favourite songs. So we kicked 3 songs off and put three new ones on. And then it just sort of like really felt really rounded and really came together kind of right at the end. So we've carried kind of starry cat talk. So we've sort of carried on with the writing, rather than sort of like sit back and maybe just play this one out, and have fun with it. We've kind of got straight back into the writing sort of phase again because we feel like we're on it. Want to get an album out next year maybe.
Nice, yeah. I'm sure your fans would love to hear that. And obviously, kicking 3 tracks off the record, and I'm sure you wrote even more as well. Do you consider them again down the line, or is it a case of binning them off and starting afresh?
What do you mean, the ones that don't make the album?
Yeah.
Well, they probably end up being on some like deluxe edition or packaged as B-sides or something. I mean, the good songs are just not. I didn't think they were quite up to standard. Some people probably think they're the best songs. I mean, I know we put like 4 forward for like a deluxe version, and our radio plugger had to pick a single out of it, and he picked the one that we like the least as being a single.
It's always
We're
the
all like,
way.
oh, for fuck's sake! Do you know what I mean? Why that one, not that one? And our manager's like, well, you played him the songs, it's understandable that he's going to think you like him.
That's your fault.
Yeah,
That's on
yeah,
you, that
so,
one.
yeah, we're just miserable sods.
And the sound that you've made with this record, is it the sound you wanted, or is it kind of just how it turned out as you were writing and recording it?
Yeah, I can't profess to know what it was going to sound like when we started. It's always a sort of voyage of discovery, and you're based around the music that you've sort of absorbed since the last album. Put together with kind of your kind of go-to sort of safe zones or comfort zones, I suppose. But we're always kind of pushing the envelope. We're always trying to sort of do something different or challenging, just to sort of keep it interesting for us, just so we can sort of like, show our faces when we hand it over, that we can be proud of it. And I'm really proud of it.
Yeah, no, that's good to hear. And obviously, 9 records in, now. How have you and how have the band evolved over those years?
We've kind of got an understanding now of what kind of how everybody works, what everybody contributes, what everyone's kind of strengths and weaknesses are, and we kind of work around those or utilize those or um, it's kind of a much more painless kind of affair now. I mean, it does have its tricky moments, when disagreements are flying around. If you've got something that you really love and somebody else really doesn't like it, you kind of feel like it's personal. But music's very subjective in it. But yeah, we just all get on really well, and we all want the same thing. We all want it to be great.
And especially when your brother's in the band as well, does that make it easier or harder on you?
Um, I mean, both easier in some ways, harder in others.
Yeah, no, I understand that answer completely. And I'd like to talk a bit about the writing process as well. And you've touched on it already a little bit, but I'd like to find out how tracks normally start off for you guys.
Well, it's like there's a few different ways. One way is like starting off with a little bit of a musical idea and Danny getting some singing to it. Another way is that either Danny or myself will sort of like come along with a song that's got a melody. Usually we don't write the lyrics until we know that the songs are working because lyrics is the kind of hardest bit, um, or the most kind of like demanding bit, I guess. Um, so there's that way, and then we bring that to the band. But yeah, typically we'll kind of get like 10 ideas to some sort of like playability between me, Danny, and Mickey. And then once we've got 10, we sort of bring it in and do a week on it or 2 weeks on it and hopefully come out with 10 ideas. Usually we'll come out with like three or four and then sort of shelve the other ones maybe to work on later or, and in among that, someone might get a riff or an idea and they take a song off in a completely different direction, bears no resemblance to its original kind of, inception. So it's a very sort of fluid approach. Plus we're doing it on Pro Tools rather than doing it on tape. You can kind of cut in and out and just take the whole session, copy it, and then do whatever you want to that one, and the original one's still in place. And that's kind of a big part of the process for us, I think, having that sort of freedom to just like not worry about losing what we've got.
Yeah, and is it still quite a collaborative way of writing, especially when kind of you all kind of do some sort of vocals in some way? Quite a few of you can play guitar. Is it all kind of do you all kind of work together on everything?
Um, the original ideas tend to come from either myself, Danny, or Mickey. Um, but then once we're working on as a band, we're all there working on it. So we'll kind of get like a rough sort of skeleton of the song with the right beat and the right rhythm on it. And then I'll have a day with Mickey, sort of like working on getting all his keyboard parts in and like throwing as many ideas at it as we can and sort of like cutting that out, getting all the good bits. And then I'll have a few days myself on guitar, um, putting in all my ideas. And that usually involves me doing like, 20 takes and I'll just hear little bits that I like and I'll gradually like write a part out of all those bits. I really enjoy that process actually, because that's just say to the guy in the last interview, is talking about all the jobs that you have to do when you're in a band when all I really want to do is just play guitar. So I get to do that at that point. Yeah, and then Danny comes in and we do the vocals and then we'll start on harmonies and then edits after that. That's kind of how the process goes, I think.
Yeah, no, fair enough. And obviously, with the album on its way, you'll be doing plenty of touring. You've got both some in-store shows coming up and a full proper tour coming up as well. I bet you can't wait to be on the road again.
Yeah, we got some rehearsals next week for that. So that's going to be interesting. I think when we kind of rehearsed 6 songs for the Shine Festival that we did recently. We only did 3 of the new ones, but we rehearsed 6 and they came together so quickly because they're kind of written from the ground up as a band, So they're kind of robust. You're not really relying on any sort of studio trickery to get them to work. So much like Out of Nothing, the Out of Nothing album was kind of like that. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it should be, fingers crossed, quite an easy process.
Yeah, and how different are your in-store shows to kind of the full band shows, I guess you'll be doing in November?
I imagine it's probably going to be broadly the same. Yeah. this, we don't go in for like big sort of production values. It's just a band on the stage playing songs. That's what we've always kind of done. Might be like a screen or two at Peace Hall maybe when we play that, because that's a massive show and they've got a screen there. So kind of we're working on some ideas for that. But yeah, we just kind of like the old, seeing the whites of the audience's eyes and rocking out.
Fair enough. Yeah, no, for sure. And 9 records in as well as we touched on earlier. How straightforward do you think your set list is going to be, especially for the full band shows later this year?
We're kind of formulating ideas. I think what we'll probably end up doing is doing like the core kind of big songs that we always do, that we have to do, and then there'll be sort of like maybe 6 new ones, and then probably like 6 deeper cuts that we don't normally do. Yeah, because I'm quite looking forward to playing a few songs that we haven't played for ages. Because we tend not to play my favourite songs live. I don't know why. Danny picks a set and he just decides that that's what he wants to do. Yeah, so hopefully there'll be a bit more deep cuts in there.
Nice, yeah, no, good to hear. And I think at the moment you've only got UK dates booked in. Are you hoping to go overseas at some point?
We've got a Dublin date in as well. Yeah, I mean, we're happy to go anywhere, but it's just a cost thing. We were kind of looking at a US tour towards the end of the year. That's looking like it's going to be cost prohibitive because there's like visas to get and everything. And by the time you've paid for your flights, your visas, your hotels, and the coach, you're 20 grand in debt against the fees. So there's like occasionally we get people from Australia wanting to put us on a festival and do a tour over there. So we were looking into that, but I don't think anything's happened with that either. But hopefully someday.
Yeah, no, fingers crossed. And doing my research just before coming on to chat to you, I believe your daughter Ella is also in the music world, having released her debut records this year. How did this kind of come about? How did she start getting into music and releasing it? And how much of an impact did you have on Ella's music?
Well, it's something that she's always wanted to do since she was very young. She's been writing killer melodies since she was 11 or 12, I would say. And I mean that. I don't just mean she made a couple of ditties on the guitar. They were actually melodies where I'm like, oh my god, wow, did you write that kind of thing? So she's been doing that for 10 years now. She just got her album out. We did like a first EP we did together. And that kind of got her signed, got management involved, and then I kind of wanted her to sort of find her own way. I mean, I will record her all day long, but I kind of wanted to find her own way rather than relying on me to do it. Do you know what I mean? So it's her thing rather than anybody being able to say to her, "Oh, your dad's done that," because I don't want that for her because it's all her. She does it all.
That nepo baby sound, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's not even true. I mean, another band, called Eva, and we find it just as hard as any other band to get gigs, get festivals, get ahead. There's no nepo coming from me. I can't help anybody. Can't even help myself. The music industry is a very unforgiving, shark infested waters. So.
And I hope you enjoyed the interview there with Embrace to talk about their new album and more. Now, we are all over social media. So come and find us at The Sound Lab, yes, on all the socials. You can also check out the website, thesoundlabuk.co.uk. So while you go and check us out on all the socials and give us some follows, of course, we've got our next interview from Faeda. They've been busy releasing new music and we had a chat with them all about it. So Faeda, how are you?
I'm fantastic, Jim. Thank you so much.
Pleasure is all mine. And we've been playing a few singles of yours recently, but most recently, All Thorns, No Roses. Tell us a bit about the single, first of all.
Yeah, so All Thorns, No Roses is our youngest. Sounds like we have children, but it's just singles. Our youngest single to date, we released it about a month ago now, or a few weeks, maybe not so much a month. And it is probably one of our most personal songs. It's got a lot of kind of passionate kind of anger in a way. The lyrics are nice and deep. It's about kind of personal experiences that kind of we've gone through and stuff like that. and it's probably one of our most favourite tracks to play and that we've released so far.
Good, yeah, nice. And you've released a few singles already now. Are we gearing up towards a bigger body of work, maybe an EP?
Yeah, definitely. So the plan at the moment was, because we've only released our first single back in, I believe it was October 2025, and this is our fifth single now. So the plan was kind of fire out singles steadily as we go along, and I think the plan will be to work towards, as you say, a bigger body of work, to kind of include them all into an EP, with potential to have new songs as well. We're currently going down to London this week to record a new song. So I think we're going to keep rolling out the singles, and we've started gaining some really nice momentum and stuff like that. So we'll probably end up being an EP or something like that.
Yeah, nice. And as you guys are relatively new, with the sound that you've got, do you think you know what sound you're wanting to go for, or are you trying things just to see what works and if people listen to it?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, because I think, as I said, because our first single was back in September, October 2025, which wasn't even that long ago, but I think already we have started tweaking the sound again. The first three singles were very much kind of in the same realm, of kind of high energy, heavy indie rock. But the last two singles, Look Me in the Eye and our brand new one, All Thorns No Roses, have been more alternative, kind of dark, indie heavy rock. So they've got a little bit of a more kind of darker vibe to them in a way. So I think we're really into the kind of darky, heavy indie kind of rock vibe at the moment. So I think that direction is the one we'll probably go for, especially with the new one that we're going to be recording. It's more, as not sinister, but it's got more of an edge, more of a bite to it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I'd like to talk about the writing process as well. So for you guys, how do tracks normally start off?
So at the moment, so usually it's kind of been, I myself being the singer and stuff like that, I will have the kind of body done, like, the kind of chords, rhythmic kind of direction sorted with the melody and the lyrics. But the most recent ones, i.e. Look Me in the Eye, has kind of been more, we kind of sat in a jam room rehearsing for like a kind of tour, and then one of the boys would kind of just come out with a riff, and it kind of spiraled from there, and then I kind of took it away and then wrote lyrics to it, which is kind of the opposite of what we've done before, which turned out really well because it kind of gave it a more orthodox feel. So we do a bit of both of that kind of direction. I'll write a song, bring it to the band, or we'll start a song in the jam room, and kind of I will take it home then, do my homework, and bring it back to the band with it a bit more morphed together and stuff like that. So a bit of both of those kind of methods at the moment.
Nice, yeah. And do you think going forward you'll be going along the same sort of lines, or do you think you might try different ways of writing to see if it works?
Yeah, I mean, we're always looking at new ways to write and stuff like that. It's all so far just been internal band writing. We've not written with any collaborators or anything like that. So it's all just been us so far. But we're always open to try new methods and stuff like that. I think the best way for us to write is just to be together and to let it flow. It can be tricky to do that sometimes, because you will be there for like 3 hours and you're like, well, you'll end up with something that Hendrix would have come up with, what I mean? Just the most random, directionless kind of jam. But if you hone it in, you can kind of concentrate that into like 3 minutes of a song. So I'm enjoying writing like that. So I think more of that kind of writing to be done in the future.
Yeah, nice. And people will want to see you doing some shows. You've got a few booked in at the moment. What's your plan this year and doing shows?
Yeah, so it's a really exciting year for us so far. We have managed to nab some European dates, which would be our debut shows in Europe, which is going to be really cool. We've got the Egypt Festival, which is a big one. They got like Bring Me the Horizon and stuff like that. So we're kind of fanboying a bit hard there. And then we've also, it's not announced yet, but we've got Paris, and we've got a date in the Netherlands, and hopefully a few over in kind of France and Germany on the way to Ziget and stuff like that. So that's the festival dates. We also got like Belladrum Festival, Focus Wales, Macmorry, and all that kind of stuff. So really looking forward to the summer run. Get a bit of sunburn on our pale Scottish skin, and then we've also got our biggest headline yet in Glasgow on the 28th of May, in the Garage. So that's going to be great, with another run of headline dates in September as well. So all guns blazing.
Nice and busy, which is good, especially for a new band. And speaking of being a new band, we touched on certain aspects earlier, but I'd like to find out how you guys got together and formed this band.
Yeah, so it's a funny one actually, because myself and our guitarist Jamie, we grew up in the same school together in Thurso, which is very, very rural, very far out the way. It's 6 hours north of Glasgow, and it's the most northern town in the UK. So we've just got our first premiere in, which is like big news, which is great. So we grew up there together, and we kind of bonded over that, just jamming through music and stuff. And we were kind of doing a couple of projects together when we were younger. And then we ended up meeting our drummer, Sam, who's from Inverness, which is about 2 hours south of Thurso. And he was in other bands that were kind of supporting us when we were kind of making our way through the kind of Highland scene and stuff. So we met him through that. We eventually auditioned him to kind of start this kind of new project. And he was just an unbelievable drummer. So we were like, oh, we've got to nab him. So that's how us three joined. And then maybe a little bit after that, we met our bassist Cole, because he's from kind of Glasgow area. So he's a southern boy compared to us. And we met him and just clicked really well. So it's kind of like we're spreaded across Scotland, but me and Jamie are also Thurso Highland boys, but we've got places to stay in Glasgow now, so we're all kind of central, like kind of spaced around each other. So that's kind of how we formed, and then we just started nailing songs together in 2025, and then we kind of just started firing them out, to simply put it.
Yeah, no, nice to hear. And I've just been browsing your personal Instagram page and seeing how far back you've been with music, and you seem to have started at a young age. Tell us how you got into music and get round to writing and releasing music.
Yeah, so I mean, I started maybe when I was like 15, 16, when I kind of discovered Jake Bugg. I thought it was so cool. And then from that, I kind of started getting into, like the standard Blink-182. Everyone's got one of those phases. And Royal Blood, when they were kind of starting to hit the stages and stuff like that on their debut album. And I kind of just started falling in love with kind of heavier rock. I dabbled in a bit of like really heavy, because I had mates that were into really heavy stuff. But then I also had mates that were into like, like the kind of lighter stuff. Like I was like Jake Bugg and all that kind of stuff. So I think at that age, I kind of just started trying to mimic what I liked, and trying to kind of play the songs that I kind of fell in love with, learning how to sing and play through that. And I've got a lot of blues background, because my dad and my grandparents, they're really into blues and all that kind of stuff. So I always had it around me and stuff like that, and ended up just, falling in love with it, and kind of starting my own kind of, they probably don't understand the rockier side as I do, because they come from a different time, but the same kind of musical line. So I mean, I've been playing for years and years, different projects and stuff like that through Thurso, trying to make it work in Thurso, which is a hard thing to do because it's so rural. But there's a nice community of people that are really into music up there, that kind of make an effort for it when there's something going on. So I've just kind of been in and out of music all since I was kind of like started high school and stuff like that, and just kept it going since.
Nice. And when you get super famous with Faeda, do you think it'll be one of those that goes off and does a solo blues record?
Oh, don't know. Maybe like a Gary Barlow kind of. I don't actually know. Maybe if I've got too much downtime, I'll think about it. But I definitely prefer being in a band rather than a solo. But you never know. I might go Robbie Williams one day. You never know.
And I hope you enjoyed the interview there with Faeda to talk about new music and more. Now, if you're listening to us on Spotify, then we're pleased to hear we also have a fresh playlist. It brings you 150 brand new up-and-coming artists that we feel like you might just enjoy yourselves. If you want to check that out, search Fresh by The Sound Lab on Spotify or head to the website thesoundlabuk.co.uk and click on the Fresh playlist button. So while you go and find us on Spotify and check out our Fresh playlist to save and listen to later on, of course, we've got our next interview from Seraphina. She's been busy releasing music. I had a chat with her all about it. So Seraphina, how are you?
I'm doing good. What about you?
Yeah, not too bad. Thanks so much. So we've just been playing a single of yours called Labyrinth. Tell us a bit about the single, first of all.
Well, I wrote this song with another producer about 3 years ago when I was living in Chicago, and it just became a really great song, kind of like similar to like the Queen of Hearts from Alice in Wonderland. We were really inspired by that.
Nice. Yeah, sounds good. And you've been busy releasing music, including some more singles this year. What is your plan going forward with some more releases?
It's gonna be that I'm gonna keep releasing singles, and then if anything hits like really, really big, then we're probably gonna release an album.
Nice. And when it comes to releasing this album that's coming in the future, do you know the direction you're wanting to take it in yet, or are you just kind of feeling what's happening with the fans and things?
I think it depends on what is like most popular for like my genre, what my audience wants.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And you've been busy releasing music for a few years now. Do you feel like you yourself have found what style of and genre you want to kind of get into, or is there still things you want to try and see what works for you?
I think it's a mixture of both. I think I definitely have found like an area that I want to be in, but I need to get like a little bit more specific with like the style to find like what I truly love.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you cover a few genres, including getting some remixes out in the world as well. What made you kind of go down this route of music in the first place?
A lot of my musical inspiration comes from my dad. He always plays like kind of rock music in in the car, and I normally like listen to pop music, so it's kind of like a little bit of a fusion. I also think that like most of my songs just try to jump in any genre just to like diversify as much as I can.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I'd like to talk a little bit about the writing process as well. So for you, how do tracks normally start off?
It's very different for everyone, but most of the time I either get a track at home and I start writing at home, or we're in the studio writing. And I just play the first little bit and just think of what I want to write about in that specific moment. And then I just start writing, figure out from there, and then I do some edits along the way if I don't like it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And is it normally a lyric comes first, or is it a melody? What is it that specifically starts things off?
It's most of the time a melody that starts where it's like I feel like the da 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 da, and then I find words to go along that work with it.
Yeah, and obviously the world of lyrics and the world of music are quite different. How straightforward do you find it to kind of combine the two?
I mean, it's kind of easy, but sometimes it can be hard because sometimes you're trying to say so much in just a little bit of time and you kind of can't just fit it in. So you have to like simplify what you're saying or change the melody a little bit. But it's just a little bit of compromise from each side.
Yeah, for sure. And the world of kind of rock music that you're in involves a lot of instrumentation as well. How much collaboration do you have with other people when it comes to writing and releasing music?
I mainly just write like the lyrics and the melody for the vocals. I don't really write the guitar part most of the time. That is with my producers, and I assume they also use like other guitarists and stuff like that in the area.
And how much input do you have on those guitars, the drums, and any other instrumentation that gets added?
I mean, most of the time I always like it. I never had to say anything, but I'm pretty sure if I did like say like I don't like this, they'd be like, "Okay, we can change it a little bit."
Yeah, no, for sure. And now that you've got music out in the world being listened to, I'm sure you want to be doing some shows. What is your plan this year and doing some gigs?
I think we're just trying to work up to it. Like I have a show coming up this summer, and I think we're just trying to like work up to getting into touring because it's like my first time doing that and doing shows and stuff like that. So we're just working up to it.
Yeah, I'm sure you've done some already. How have they gone down, and how have you felt when doing them?
I actually just had two shows at the Whiskey Go-Go and the Viper in Los Angeles, and I think they went really well. I mean, I kind of was shocked by how well I did. I kind of was like a little nervous because it was like my first time.
Yeah, did it all go to plan?
Well, we worked with everything.
That's good. And obviously you must have worked on a set list by now with all those tracks out there. How is everything fitting together when it does come down to doing those shows?
I mean, at least for the shows that I did, it was mainly like covers of like other rock bands. And I did do one of my original songs called Chaotic Lover, which came out a couple years ago. And working on that song with the band like was incredible because it was like, wow, I actually am like doing this type of music like surrounding with like also learning like Motley Crue stuff and like Van Halen and a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, no, most definitely. And when it comes to a show day, what does a show day normally look like for you from the moment you get up until you step foot on stage?
Um, Going over my lyrics mainly and like melodies and stuff like that because I always stress out like what if I'm gonna get it wrong or something like that. And then just also just taking like a couple deep breaths to like beforehand just to know that even if I do get it wrong, which I don't really do that much, it's gonna be okay. And if people notice it, they're not going to be like, "Oh my gosh, you got it wrong."
Yeah, I know how that feels. And is there anything else that you need to do just before you step foot on stage, or is it really just concentrating on on those breathing techniques?
It's just making sure I have the whole song down, talking with like my bandmates, making sure we're all on the same page.
Yeah, no, for sure. And when you step foot off stage, I guess you're full of adrenaline still. How do you kind of calm yourself down afterwards? Because it's normally quite late when you step foot off stage.
Yeah, most of the time I try to find like solitude because being surrounded by so many people just keeps the adrenaline like way too high. And just having that little bit of solitude like kind of just like relaxes yourself and like that.
Yeah, no, definitely. And as you are fairly new to the music world, I'd like to find out what got you into music and doing this in the first place.
I think I've always liked music. I always was listening to music, always singing along to music in the radio. And then I kind of just realized that's something that I actually can do, and it's not like that impossible.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And you must have aspirations of things you want to achieve in the future. What's one thing you really want to do in your music career?
I think gosh, that's a hard question. I got to think about that one. Um, I think I just want to someone to tell me that I have inspired them to write music or create music. I think that would be really important to me.
And I hope you enjoyed the interview there with Seraphina to talk about music and more. Now, if you're loving all of today's interviews, then you can hear them all again on our Future Hits radio show. They come in an edited form this time, alongside a load of new music and a live session too. And if you want to check that out, head to the website, thesoundlabuk.co.uk, click International Radio Shows, and you will find our latest episode of Future Hits on there, alongside a load of other radio shows that we do. So make sure you check us out on our Mixcloud page, The Sound Lab UK. So it's now time for our final new interview, and it comes from The Musical Box. They are heading out on tour across the UK very soon, and we had a chat with them all about it. So The Musical Box, how are you?
I'm fine. Fine. Yourself?
Good, yeah, not too bad. Thanks so much. So we're having a little chat because you are about to head out on tour across the UK in June and July. Tell us a little bit about the tour itself.
It's something that, we've been thinking about for a little while. I mean, people who know us know that we've been touring with the Gabriel era for many years. I've been in the band 30 years now. And we wanted to do something different. And we thought that it would be great to play like the early years of when Phil became frontman reluctantly, actually, because he didn't want to be the singer of the band. He said so himself many times, but for various reasons they couldn't find the guy, and at some point, like the other guys suggested that he should do it, and he did, and actually brilliantly. So I mean, we decided like it would be a lot of fun to play songs from the early albums from the 70s, and at some point I suggested that maybe we could play a couple of tracks from Duke, which was 1980. So this is what we're going to be doing, and this is going to be probably the biggest production that we've ever put together. Well, I think it is going to be the biggest production we've ever put together. We're trying to do a big show, and yeah, playing music from Trigger the Tail. I mean, some people are like thinking that since the show was called And Then There Was Phil, that we're playing And Then There Were Three, but it's not the case. I mean, we're playing mostly songs. I think we're playing something like 70% of Trigger the Tail, maybe 80% of Wind and Wuthering, a couple of tracks from And Then There Were Three. Curiously enough, like we're playing maybe 3 songs from that album and a few songs from Duke and a couple of surprises, which will not be surprises for very long, because I know that the next day, the day after the first show, it's going to be on internet and everybody's going to know what's happening. But at least I guess I'll keep it secret a bit as long as I can.
So. Yeah, at least there'll be a surprise for those who turn up on the first night anyway.
Exactly.
So, and yeah, as you mentioned, you've got tracks off of I think it's 4 records that you're going to be playing on this tour. How straightforward was it to put the set list together for this tour itself?
It's never easy because we don't want it to be too long and we don't want it to be too short. And actually, it's going to be quite a long show. I mean, people get comfortable because I think we have something like 2 hours of music only, so that takes away intermission, and I'll be talking a bit to the people. Apparently I have to, because these guys have to set up their sound and all that stuff. So people will be looking at me like, okay, what's going on? So I have to figure. I don't even know what I'm going to say yet, but I mean, I still have it a little while. The first show is about what day is today? Yeah, it's a little under 2 months from now. So I'll figure it out, and I can make it up as I go, because it's not like a recreation of a show. It's although we took visual elements from various shows and put them into our show to make it interesting and a lot of fun. And I think it is going to be an amazing show, and I'm looking forward to it. Of course, we're a little nervous this week. We are rehearsing in a hall, because next week Cargo's leaving with all the equipment. So make sure that it's in the UK on time, because we've had a few bad surprises in the few past years where, like the equipment was held, or that the boat didn't make it on time, or whatever, like. So we're like, well, you know what? We'll make sure it's going to be there a couple of weeks in advance. And if things go wrong, then it'll be there on time.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. Yeah, don't worry. I'm sure it will. Now, the musical box itself is been branded not a cover or a tribute band to Genesis. Tell us a bit about what the interpretation is from your side of things when it comes to your performances surrounding the Genesis era.
Well, like cover bands usually, which is what we're going to be doing now. But I mean, they take music from various eras, and we usually recreate a specific show. So we're more like Broadway. Well, I don't want to say Broadway either, but you know what I mean. It's like we recreate the show. We don't pick things, from various shows and try to fit them together. But we're going to be doing this right now. it's kind of the same formula as when we did the extravaganza shows a couple of years ago. Well, a couple of years, it's more than that now. Time is going by so fast that I'm a little confused about how long ago that was. But yeah, and well, I don't always like when I go see what people call tribute bands or homage, and I'm sometimes a little disappointed. And I like to think that we push things further than most of these bands. I don't think many bands covering other bands like Genesis or whoever else get the support from the actual band. I mean, everybody from Genesis has been supporting us because they saw that what we did was different than the other tribute bands. So I think this is why we never liked the tag cover and tribute, because although we are obviously covering their music, but I mean it's just like, you go see a philharmonic orchestra and you don't call them a cover band, even though they do cover Mozart and Bach and whoever. But yeah. So I think this is what we feel like. We are more like, I think we feel a little bit more serious. I don't want to sound pretentious or or anything, but we always push the whole thing further. And I mean, we get the same instruments. We just bought a lot of instruments again because we want to get the sounds right. And I mean, we don't play something on a Nord or something like that. Or I mean, we got um, the same ARP synthesizer, the organ. We just bought an electric Yamaha piano because this is what Tony had on stage. So we're like, we always go a little crazy. So I think this is a big difference between us and the other bands who do that. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I have nothing against these guys. I think that some of them are fantastic, but we're definitely going further than those people, I think.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And even Phil Collins himself has come out and said that you're not a tribute band and that you're more than that. So at least you've got the support from them as well.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Because I remember, I mean, many years ago when we decided to do Lamb Lies Now on Broadway, we needed permission from, we wanted it actually. And so we were writing to Peter and we didn't get an answer. And somebody told us, like, well, write to that person and your message is going to get through. And then we sent him some stuff. And the moment he heard the band, he was like, okay, these guys, I'll support them because they're different from the others. So it's flattering, a friend of mine who's in the band, actually, the drummer of the Musical Box, once told me, he said, it's crazy. We grew up wanting to be these guys, and now, well, we are, a couple of hours a night. I mean, we are these guys, so it's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, most definitely. And I know you came in a little slightly after the band formed and decided to do this, but I'm sure you know the answer to why this project came about in the first place.
Yes. Well, Sebastian, the bass player, Sebastian Lamont, heard Stop Is Ready, and then also he heard Trigger the Tail, and when he heard Entangled, it was like, I have to play these songs with a band. And of course, I mean, at some point he saw the cover of the Genesis live album, the famous, blue backdrop with the black silhouette with the red box. And he was like very intrigued by that. And it was like, I want to do this. I want to recreate that. And I want, he once said, we decided to do this because we wish we had seen the show and we wanted to see the show. And strangely enough, I mean, we recreate the show, but we don't get to see it because we're in the show. But it's fantastic to show people and get the reaction. I mean, we're very lucky to be doing this. I mean, we always get fantastic reactions from the crowd. People love the band. I mean, as I said, I've been in the band for 32 years now. So yeah, basically that was this sparkle for the Sebastian wanted to play Supper's Ready and Entangled. We're not going to do Supper's Ready on that tour, but we'll be doing Entangled. I can give that away. As you know, as I said, I mean, and not even 2 months, everybody's going to know everything about what we do. But this is what I don't like about the internet. But I mean, it's very useful when I need information. But I find sad that the information of what we do is going to end up very quickly. And then everybody knows. I always love going to a show and not knowing what's going to happen and get the surprise. But this is not the way people work now. They want to know in advance. I don't know. I guess, it is what it is.
I think that's why some bands mix things up each night. So you might have to have a rethink about swapping things in and out each night now.
That's right. Who knows? Maybe we'll feel that the show is too long, and we might start like, well, you know what? Maybe we could swap a few songs so that people don't know what we do. But because I know it's going to be a very long show, but I mean, at least we don't have an opening act because we have an intermission now. We don't need an opening act, so we'll have an intermission, and it's going to be Genesis all night. No complaints, I hope, from the crowd. So yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, I can well imagine. And the likes of Peter, Phil, Steve, and that have all gone off after Genesis and done their own thing, solo projects, other projects too. Have you, as the Musical Box, thought about going into their solo and other projects work?
Well, Sebastian just released an album, I think last year or something, and he played a few shows. It's called he gave himself an alias, the Admiral. So people might want to look that up. It's sort of progressive rock. I've been thinking of writing my own stuff as well, but I mean, the Musical Box has always been about performing Genesis music, and we did think about we did talk about maybe writing some stuff at some point because some people suggested that we should. And the material, the Genesis song so well. Maybe you guys could write something like Genesis. But then again, I mean, if I one day decide to write some music, I think I would rather have my own identity than do Genesis. Obviously, I mean, I can imagine not having any influence at all from them because I mean, especially since I've been playing their music for so many years now. But that wouldn't be my goal, like to do something Genesis like.
And I hope you enjoyed the interview there with the Musical Box to talk about touring, music, and more. Now, we have the part of the show right now where we like to throw back in time. And we're doing so back a couple of years, back to 2024, where we had a little chat with the Kaiser Chiefs. Yes, they were busy releasing a new album at the time. I had a chat with them all about it. So the Kaiser Chiefs, how are you?
I'm good, thank you very much. How are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. So we've been playing a new single of yours called Burning in Flames. Tell us a little bit about the single, first of all.
Sort of like we made this album and we were trying to do a lot of different things. Or I don't know if we actually tried. We ended up doing like loads and loads of different styles of stuff. So I think people have heard like How to Dance is a bit more like funk and disco. And then there's some more sort of traditional Kaiser Chiefs stuff on the record. But Burning in Flames, we sort of tried, like we wrote it and it sounded good. It's like a nice song, but it felt like it, like needed something extra, which was the strings, I think. So we sent it to like this guy, David Arnold. He's like a famous, what do you call it, arranger, and he's done lots of movies. He used to do the James Bond movies. I don't know if he still does. And he did. And he has had a solo career, like had singles as well and stuff. He's a producer. Anyway, he did the strings, and sorry, it's getting very complicated there. He did the strings and added them on top. And I think like the whole point was to make this sort of like big, movie soundtrack ending credits kind of song. It's about kind of being in a band, and sort of sometimes you want to throw it all away, then sometimes you realize that it's what you love the most. So it's kind of like quite apt for us now. We've been in the Kaiser Chiefs for 20 years, so it's been you sometimes have some moments of doubt.
We'll get onto those 20 years a bit later on, but let's talk about your new record, which is out on March the 1st, called Kaiser Chiefs Easy, 8th album. How easy was it?
It was quite easy in a way. The whole thing was we were kind of manifesting a little bit of like when we make a record, often it's very stressful and you're kind of tearing your hair out and all that stuff. And we were like, why does it need to be this difficult? Like I think because of COVID, like after we were coming out of COVID when we first started making the record, and that had made everyone, I think, feel a little bit like, especially musicians, where there was one email from our manager in COVID, which was basically like, you might never do a gig again, which seems a little over dramatic at this point, right? But I guess at that time it felt like realistic. So when you've had that situation, I think just sort of trying to enjoy it, and like really loads of really corny things like not worrying about what other people think and just doing what you want and all that stuff, became sort of important. And I think it came on that sort of drifted onto the record. And yeah, part of that. So part of the Easy 8 thing was like, it was not a joke, but kind of like, if the second album is difficult, why can't the 8th one be easy? Then also as a sort of statement of like, let's try and make it easy. So not getting too stressed about decisions, not arguing too much, just sort of like trying to listen to other people as well. So like this guy, Amir Amor, he was the producer, sort of like, we gave him a little bit of like, probably a little bit more control than we would usually give producers, in terms of like, we would send him loads of songs and we'd be like, which ones do you think are the best ones? Which ones do you think should be on the album? Stuff like that, which is unusual for us. Usually we would be like very, very like hands-on about every single decision. So yeah, we just tried to like, we're a little bit older, tried to just sort of take it easy a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. And you'll be getting the chance to play these tracks live when you head out on tour in April. I bet you can't wait to be on the road again.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. We've actually got some, how many are there? 4 gigs this week, starting tomorrow. We're doing some in-stores, but they're not in record shops anymore. They're in venues. And so yeah, tomorrow, get to play some music again, which I'm really looking forward to, because this has been like the longest gap between Kaiser Chiefs records, 2019 to 2024. So that's a long time. But also, we haven't played together music for quite a lot of months. I think it was probably September, when we last did a gig. That's a really long time for us. That's like a surprisingly big gap. So obviously we've been rehearsing, obviously. But in terms of with an audience, so yeah, it'd be great to get back to it, obviously.
Yeah, for sure. And then we'll be heading into festival season. You got a few booked in. Are you planning on having a busy festival summer?
We actually, like this year, we've got a few things booked in. We're not going too crazy this year because of, well, various things, including we've done every summer for like about 20 years. But we've got big plans for 2025, which haven't been announced yet. So we are just sort of doing, like, promoting the album, doing some gigs, but we're not like really milking it, but really like pushing it. I don't know what the right word would be, because we want to sort of have a big year next year.
Sounds good to me. Are you hoping to head overseas as well, into Europe and over to the States?
Yeah, we'll go to Europe, I think, a little bit. America might wait till 2025. Like, I've been doing lots of interviews, obviously, the album, and everybody from like Australia or Brazil or Japan or everywhere wants to know when are you coming? And my kind of stock answer is we'll be there next year. So hopefully we won't disappoint too many people.
Nice. Sounds good to me. And you touched on 20 years in the band now. How has the music and how have you evolved over the years?
It's a really good question. I think like it's almost a question for someone from the outside to answer, but I think we, I think there's definitely like a couple of periods of Kaisers. Like there's the early period where I guess we were just sort of getting going, and like all the songs we wrote were for live. Like we would be in the rehearsal room and we'd be like, done a gig last night. And we'd be like, okay, we need to write a song for the middle of the set that's upbeat and that everyone can get straight away. So that's like kind of where Na 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 or something came along. And then there was a period like with the fourth album, you sort of make your own album, where I think we got a little bit lost and we didn't really know exactly what to do. And that album I think is really interesting, but it's like a bit unfinished maybe. And then there was sort of a new Kaiser Chiefs when Nick left with Education, Education and War. That was sort of like reclaiming, I guess, Kaisers. I think that's what the album kind of represents, like just starting again a little bit. And then since then, I think we've been trying to just sort of make interesting albums and do interesting things and work with different interesting people to keep, make it interesting for us, make it interesting for the people who are listening. Obviously, the world's changing as well with like CDs not exist. Well, they exist, but no one listens to CDs, right? Everyone's streaming, and maybe radio is different, and playlisting is different. So there's a lot of different sort of things floating around. So we've always just tried to sort of run with the punches, if you know what I mean, and try and like work out how to make sure that the most people can listen to Kaiser Chiefs. And yeah, I think with this record though, I think we tried with Stay Together, which was the album in 2016. We sort of decided to make a pop album and do it with like a producer, like a pop producer. And I think some of the songs in that album are really good. Like Holding My Soul's good and Parachute and some of the songs are good. But like I never loved the production. Like I thought like if I could do it again, I would try it just to get some slightly different production, different mixing or whatever. But with this album, I feel like we've done something really like we've been trying to do, which is sort of make an album that sounds, it's got Kaiser Chiefs DNA, but then it sounds more modern. Like it sounds not like, it doesn't sound like it was made in 2005. It sounds like it was made in like, 2023 or whenever it was made. So I'm really, really pleased with that.
Yeah, I can well imagine. And with the writing side of things, how do tracks normally start off for you guys?
It all depends, really. This album's been an interesting album because of working with Amir and like some remote, like I think it's kind of modern, but like more remote working. So like we would be like sending things on email to people, or we transferring tracks and recordings, like even like stuff like the studio. We did some stuff in a proper studio, but then some stuff we just recorded in our rehearsal room and then sent it over to Amir to like produce. So it's been interesting, but songwriting wise, some stuff like Another Reason, Stay Alive, and No Groove, and Feeling All Right, they just started with us jamming in Leeds in our rehearsal room. Other songs, like Burning in Flames and stuff, a lot more. What's the word? Like being a studio, being a mere studio or another studio, and like have an idea and then just build up from that, and then like almost playing it as a band is a secondary thing, like you sort of write the song and then you work out how you're going to play it as a band. So yeah, again, with just sort of time passing and developing and people being in different locations as well and all that stuff, just trying to adapt and trying to do things in different ways. I think like it's just part of being in a band or part of being an artist is you try different things, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, for sure. And sometimes you get co-writers in as well. On this record, you've obviously got Nile Rodgers on as well, who co-wrote your track "Feeling All Right." How does that work in terms of writing and getting tracks sorted?
Well, the Nile one's sort of a bad example because really that song was pretty written, but we just took it. We went in the studio with him. We messed around with some arrangements, some chords and stuff, but like the sort of basics of the track was done. Whereas Beautiful Girls more of a song where we went Ian Archer is a guy we've written with him before on Duck, and he's written some songs like he did some Snow Patrol stuff, but he also did lots of, I want to say George Ezra, but I think that's wrong. Anyway, he's a great guy. We've worked with him, and he's like just in terms of ideas, he's a really good guy to work with. But that was that was more of a matter of me and Ricky going to his place in Brighton, and then just sort of having some ideas with him, jamming with him, and then coming out with like some words and some chords, and then taking it back up to Leeds, and then sort of fleshing it out into what it becomes. So I think when you've been in a band for 20 years, sometimes you need a little nudge sometimes about like getting started. But all those experiences are always good, and always like going back to Education and War. We worked with Fraser T. Smith. That to me was one of the best writing experiences ever, because it was the first time he told me the way I wrote, if you know what I mean, or the way that Kaiser Chiefs write. So he told me some of my own tricks, and I was like, all right, I didn't know. But it helped me in the future. Do you know what I mean? It was a weird sort of like, we wrote a song, but he also taught me some stuff about myself, a bit like therapy.
And I hope you enjoyed the interview there with the Kaiser Chiefs from 2024. And that's the end of the show for another week. I am afraid, but don't you worry, we will be back next week with more interviews. But if you can't wait until then, social media at The Sound Lab, yes, on all the socials. And you can also check out the website, thesoundlabuk.co.uk. And we'll be back next week for another episode of The Sound Lab's Interviews Unedited. Goodbye.